water splashed across Adrian Vale's suit before he could take another step. The icy liquid ran down his sleeves and onto his leather shoes. The hotel hallway went silent. A young woman froze, mop still dripping in her hand. "Oh no," she whispered. "Sir, He cut her off sharply. "Do you realize what you've just done?" His tone was sharp enough to slice glass. Her cheeks flushed. "It was an accident, I swear. I didn't see you there." Guests passing by slowed to stare. Adrian stood stiffly, droplets sliding off his designer jacket. "An accident doesn't change the fact that you've ruined a $2,000 suit." She blinked, stunned. "Then maybe you shouldn't walk like you own the hallway." That one line broke the tension like thunder. The bellboy nearly choked, trying not to laugh. Adrian's jaw tightened, but there was something in her tone, bold, steady, that made him pause instead of explode. "What's your name?" he demanded. "Siena Rojas." He held her gaze longer than necessary, memorizing the defiance in her brown eyes before brushing past. "Be more careful, Miss Rojas." As soon as he left, Siena exhaled shakily. "Great start to the morning," she muttered, wringing her mop. "Maybe next time I'll spill coffee on a prince." But as she cleaned up, her thoughts strayed. That man didn't just look rich, he looked untouchable. Cold, precise. The kind of person who never forgot an insult. Later that day, while pushing her cleaning cart near the penthouse floor, she overheard the staff whispering. "He's buying half the bay. Adrian Vale, the investor from the States." Her stomach dropped, of course. The one person she'd humiliated was the most important guest in the hotel. Perfect. When she finished her shift, Siena checked her phone. 2 missed calls from the clinic. Her brother, Luis. She hurried to the nearest bus stop, worry tightening her chest. At the clinic, the doctor looked grave. "We'll need to increase his treatment, Siena. The infection's spreading." "I can't afford—" "I know," he said gently. "But without the medicine—" She nodded before he could finish, swallowing the lump in her throat. "I'll find a way." That night, while the city lights shimmered over Valmora Bay, Adrian sat in the hotel lounge, trying to focus on spreadsheets. He couldn't. His mind kept replaying the cleaner's voice, unafraid, proud. He'd met thousands of people, and most either wanted something from him or feared him. She didn't. He sighed, closing his laptop. Maybe he was losing focus because of fatigue or loneliness. The next morning, he caught sight of her again in the garden courtyard, kneeling to scrub marble steps. The sun hit her face just so. And for a brief second, he noticed the exhaustion behind her steady movements. He didn't mean to stare, but she looked up and caught him. "Don't worry, I'm working far away from your suit this time," she said dryly. He almost smiled. "I'm not worried." Her brow lifted. "You look like someone who worries about everything." He hesitated, then said, "You might be right," and walked away before she could respond. The encounter left Siena unsettled. Why was he being civil? People like him didn't notice people like her. 2 days later, Adrian was in a tense meeting in the hotel conference hall, investors arguing across the table. He found his gaze drifting to the window, where he saw Siena outside helping an elderly tourist who had fallen. She knelt beside the woman, speaking gently, steady hands checking for injury. Something in that image cracked his composure. That evening, as rain began to pour over Valmora, Siena was mopping the empty lobby when Adrian appeared again. "You'll catch a cold working like this," he said. "Not the first time," she replied. "Rain doesn't care about pay grades." He stood there for a moment, watching her wipe water from the floor. "What's your story, Siena?" "My story?" She let out a small laugh. "People like me don't get stories. We get shifts." He tilted his head. "Everyone has one. Mine's simple," she said finally. "I work, I save, and I try to keep my brother alive. That's it." Something softened in his eyes, but she turned away, unwilling to let pity ruin her pride. Later that night, Adrian called his assistant. "Find out about a patient named Luis Rojas at St. Elena Clinic, quietly." The next morning, Siena arrived at the clinic only to be told, "Your brother's treatment has been covered for the next 3 months. Anonymous donor." Her heart pounded. She knew exactly who it was. She stormed back to the hotel, spotting Adrian by the elevator. "You had no right," she snapped. He blinked. Excuse me? Paying for my brother. Do you think I'm some charity project? I was trying to help. I didn't ask for help. Her voice trembled. Do you know what that feels like? To have someone fix your life like it's a broken app? Adrian looked stunned. I'm sorry, that wasn't my intention. Then what was? She whispered, tears threatening. To ease your guilt? He opened his mouth, then closed it again. For the first time, he had no answer. She turned and walked away before the tears could fall. For the rest of the day, Adrian couldn't concentrate. The merger meeting blurred. His assistant's voice became noise. All he could think about was how her words made him feel small and human. That night, standing on his balcony, he watched the city lights flicker below. He realized something strange. He admired her. Not her beauty, though she had plenty, but her fire. Her refusal to bow. Somewhere deep inside, something began to shift. If you're enjoying the story so far, don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button. It helps bring more stories like this to life. The next morning, Siena tried to keep her head down and her mind busy. She scrubbed floors, replaced towels, smiled at guests, everything she'd done 1,000 times before. But she couldn't scrub away the memory of that argument. Every time she wrung out her mop, she replayed his face, confused, hurt, human. By evening, she was in the courtyard again, rinsing her hands at the fountain when Adrian walked by. For a moment, neither spoke. The soft sound of water and distant music filled the space. He finally said quietly, "You were right yesterday." She didn't turn. About what? About me trying to fix things. I didn't mean to make you feel small. I just didn't know another way to show I cared. She faced him, wary. Why would you care? You don't even know me. He smiled faintly. That's the problem. I want to. Something in his voice, gentle, sincere, unraveled her defenses. She wiped her wet hands on her apron. Then talk. No business terms, no big words. Just talk. He leaned on the railing beside her, rain-soft breeze brushing through his hair. I built companies because I wanted control. When my father died, everything felt chaotic. Success was the only way to feel safe again. But after a while, money stopped meaning anything. She studied him for a long moment. So you hide behind it. He nodded. Every day, her tone softened. You think helping people makes you feel less guilty for being rich? He chuckled quietly. You don't hold back, do you? I can't afford to. They both laughed then, a real laugh. Something eased between them. For the first time, they weren't billionaire and cleaner. They were just two people standing in the same rain. Days passed, and their encounters became routine. Morning greetings. Coffee breaks shared in the staff courtyard. Adrian started staying longer than planned, claiming the business deal needed more attention. The truth was, he just didn't want to leave Valmora yet. One afternoon, Siena found him sitting by the pier behind the hotel, staring at the water. You come here a lot? She said, sitting a careful distance away. It's quiet, he said. Silence doesn't judge. She smiled faintly. Neither does the ocean. It just takes what you give it. He glanced at her. What about you? What do you give it? My thoughts, my worries, sometimes my anger. What makes you angry? She looked at him, eyes sharp. Injustice, arrogance, people who think kindness makes you weak. He held her gaze. I used to be one of those people. I know, she said softly. The waves rolled between them, and for a long time, neither spoke. Then, without meaning to, Adrian reached for her hand. She didn't pull away. That touch felt like something breaking open. Later that week, Valmora hosted a gala at the hotel. Guests in glittering gowns arrived, cameras flashing. Siena worked behind the scenes, making sure everything gleamed. Adrian stood near the balcony, surrounded by investors, smiling for the first time in weeks, until his business partner, Elena, arrived. Elena was stunning, polished, and dangerously sharp. She leaned close, whispering, You've changed, Adrian. Everyone's talking. You and that maid. He stiffened. Watch your words. She laughed softly. Careful. The board doesn't like rumors. They might think you're losing focus. Siena, who had come to clear glasses, froze at the edge of the hall. Every word hit like a stone. She slipped away before anyone saw her face. By morning, her locker was empty. She'd left her uniform folded neatly on the shelf. No note, no goodbye. When Adrian found out, he tore through the hotel, demanding answers. Where did she go? The manager shrugged helplessly. She quit, said nothing else. He drove to the clinic, hoping to find her visiting her brother. The nurse said she'd left the city 2 days ago. For the first time in years, Adrian Vale felt powerless. Maybe not, he admitted, but I couldn't stay away. She turned to walk back toward the classroom, and for a moment he thought she'd leave. Then she stopped and said over her shoulder, "Tomorrow my students are learning basic coding. I could use someone who knows a thing or two about computers." A small smile broke across his face. "I think I can manage that." She nodded without looking back. "Be on time." As she disappeared into the fading light, Adrian felt a calm he hadn't known in years. If you're still with the story, make sure to subscribe for more stories like this. Love, loss, and hope that hit straight to the heart. And the next morning, Adrian arrived early at the little schoolhouse by the shore. The building was small, cracked walls, wooden desks, a few mismatched chairs, but it buzzed with quiet energy. Siena was already there arranging books. She looked up, and for a second her composure slipped. "You're actually on time," she said. He smiled. "I couldn't risk failing the entrance test." Her lips twitched despite herself. "We don't do tests here, we do patience." "I've been practicing that," he said softly. The girls giggled as they watched the exchange. Siena introduced him simply as a friend who knows about computers. Adrian didn't correct her. For the next few hours, he showed the students how to type their names, open files, and play with basic code. Their excitement was contagious. He felt lighter, freer, like for once, every minute mattered. When class ended, Siena handed him a bottle of water. "They like you," she said. "I think they just like the screens lighting up." "No," she said quietly. "They liked you." "You listened." He met her gaze, unsure what to say. "I used to think being powerful meant being heard. Now I think it's the opposite." "That's a rare realization," she murmured. "Maybe I needed to lose everything to see it." Siena looked away toward the ocean, her hair moving with the wind. "You didn't lose everything," she said. "You found something, maybe that's worse." He smiled faintly. "Depends what I found." She didn't answer, but the way she looked at him said enough. Over the next few weeks, Adrian kept returning, fixing the school's old computers, helping paint the walls, donating supplies without signing his name anywhere. Siena pretended not to notice, though she did. Every time he laughed with the children, every time he knelt beside a student to explain something, she felt her guard weaken. One evening, as the sky turned gold, Siena stayed back to clean the chalkboard. Adrian lingered at the door, watching her. "You could go home," she said without turning. "I don't have one," he replied. She stopped wiping, her hand frozen midair. "You could build one." "With you?" She turned slowly. "You shouldn't ask questions you're not ready for." "I'm ready for everything except losing you again." The room went quiet except for the distant sound of waves. Siena's voice dropped to a whisper. "You don't know what you're saying." He took a step closer. "I know exactly what I'm saying. I've built empires that meant nothing. But this place, these girls, you, it feels like something that could last." She closed her eyes, fighting back tears. "Don't promise things you can't stay for." "I'm not promising forever," he said. "I'm asking for a chance." The honesty in his tone broke through her fear. She exhaled slowly, the tension in her shoulders melting away. "Then start by staying tomorrow. There's more painting to do." He smiled, relief washing over him. "I'll bring the brushes." Days turned into weeks. Word spread through the village about the quiet foreigner who worked at the school. He didn't carry phones or assistants anymore, just paint on his hands and laughter in his voice. Siena watched him change, not because he was trying to impress her, but because he'd finally stopped pretending. One afternoon, a black car arrived outside the school. A woman stepped out, Adrian's mother, elegant and cold. Siena froze when she saw her. The woman looked around the humble building with clear distaste. "Adrian, this is where you've been hiding?" "I'm not hiding," he said evenly. "I'm living." "Among children and dust?" she snapped. "You have responsibilities, a reputation?" "I had those," he interrupted. "Now I have purpose." She turned to Siena, eyes narrowing. "You think you can fix him?" "He belongs to a different world." Siena's voice was calm but steady. "He doesn't belong anywhere he doesn't choose to be." His mother stiffened, glaring. "He'll regret this." Adrian's voice was firm. If regret means being free, I'll take it. He took Siena's hand, right there in front of her. I've spent years proving myself to people who never saw me. I'm done with that. His mother's eyes softened just slightly, as if recognizing a man she'd forgotten. Without another word, she turned and left. Siena stood in stunned silence. You didn't have to do that. Yes, he said, I did. That evening, they sat by the shore watching the sky burn orange. She leaned her head lightly against his shoulder. You really gave it all up? She asked quietly. He smiled. Not all, I kept what mattered. And what's that? He looked at her. This. The feeling that I'm finally not performing. She smiled, a real smile this time. You're impossible, so I've been told. For a long while, they just listened to the sea. No more walls, no more pretending. Just two souls breathing in the same rhythm. Months passed. The school grew. New benches, new books, more students. Adrian helped build a small computer lab. Siena handled the teaching. Their partnership became the heartbeat of Valmora's quiet edge. One morning, Siena caught him sketching plans at a table. What are you doing? She asked, peering over his shoulder. Designing a foundation, he said. For education, healthcare, clean water. We'll call it the Horizon Project. She blinked. We? He smiled. You're the heart of it, Siena. You always were. She rolled her eyes to hide the emotion in them. You never stop planning, do you? I just plan better things now. They both laughed. Years later, people would say they were opposites who never should have met. But those who knew them saw something deeper. Two broken halves that fit not by force, but by faith. On the night of the school's reopening, the children sang under lanterns. Do you ever miss your old life? She asked softly. Sometimes, he said. Then I remember what it cost me. She smiled, and he turned to her. And I wouldn't trade this for any empire. The music swelled, the children laughed. The world, for once, felt right. As the camera would fade out, waves crashing against the pier, the lights of Valmora glittering like fallen stars, Siena's voice would echo softly in narration. He built towers that touched the sky. I cleaned their floors, but when the ocean met the sky, we found the same horizon. Pause. If you felt something while listening, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more stories that remind you love doesn't ask where you come from, only where you're willing to go.